Now, I'm sure that we can all agree that the accomplishments of our organizations over the last 19 years has surpassed what many dreamed possible. But that dream continues to become a reality as we continue to surpass expectations, break down barriers, excel in leadership, and create a safer environment where we can be ourselves. Now, I know we just saw the video, but did anyone here happen to watch the news over the last couple of weeks? That's interactive. Did anyone here watch the news over the last couple of weeks? Okay. Well, no matter where you were across the United States, we were all over it. First, with our groundbreaking affinity program with Bethpage Federal Credit Union, and then as we celebrated becoming the first and the only, that's right, the first and the only chartered gay PTA in the nation. Now that is something to celebrate. This historic edition of the Gay PTA will create a safer environment for GLBT youth and their families and give a greater GLBT inclusive voice on the local, state, and national level. But perhaps our greatest accomplishment in the past year was the grand opening of the network's second and Nassau County's first GLBT Community Center in Garden City. This is our second brick-and-mortar, state-of-the-art center on Long Island, giving Long Island 2 physical centers, one in Suffolk and Bayshore and one in Nassau in Garden City. And what it gives is access to vital, life-changing services. Now, one would think we would stop there, right? No. Because actually, just in the past couple of weeks, we received a few emails from students at Southampton and West Hampton high schools. Now, the emails were very, very short. They were 2 lines, and they simply read, they said, "Hey, legally, we can't get to Bayshore, and we can't get to Garden City. When are you coming to the East End? We need you." Well, hearing that confirmed what we already knew, that a third center is needed on the East End of Long Island to give access and services to the community so that we can all have a safe space to gather, grow, and organize. Whether it's from Mineola to Montauk, or from Queens to Quogue, or from Great Neck to Greenport, we will be there for all of Long Island. Thank you. Now, these groundbreaking achievements are things that we have fought for and are things that could never have been dreamed of 19 years ago. It is truly amazing to look at where we were, where we are, and where we are going. Now, looking back now, I, as well as many in this room, are stunned, absolutely stunned by the growth and size and demand of our organization. We are the GLBT voice on Long Island. We are the GLBT market on Long Island. We are one of the most well-respected nonprofit organizations on Long Island. Quite simply, we produce results and get things done. Now, we are an organization that is locally focused and nationally recognized as we provide vital life-saving services and a local and national voice for the GLBT community. Our honorees here tonight are excellent examples of our mission at work, both here on Long Island and across the country. Blake Claypack, Eddie Frazier, and Andy Tobias represent, let's give them a hand. Represent what our organization strives to do every single day: end homophobia and transphobia, provide a home and safe space for the community, and to advocate for equality. Now, we've seen in the video a little bit, a lot has happened since we held our gala last April. Last year, in fact, was a banner year for the GLBT community, with the passage of marriage equality, the anticipated implementation this summer of the New York State Dignity for All Students Act, The repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which allowed our service members to serve our country openly and freely for the first time ever. With all these great milestones, some thought and asked, is our job done? Some even asked, is your organization still needed? Is your organization still needed? Well, after fielding questions like that, and knowing that our organizations were instrumental in making many of these milestones happen, I tend to reflect. I tend to reflect what life was like for me growing up, what I longed for, how much I wanted to be me and live in a just, fair, and safe society. And I think about the progress we have made and the tremendous amount of work still to be done. You know, just a week ago today, last Friday night, Legally hosted its annual Night of Noise. Night of Noise is a great event. Many of our youth who are here planned that. Night of Noise is a great event that is coupled with the National Campaign Day of Silence, whose objective is to give a voice and make noise for all members of society who are silenced by anti-GLBT bullying, unfair workplace practices, or who are treated like second-class citizens. This year's Night of Noise broke many records, with more youth than ever attending the event, representing over 100 gay-straight alliance clubs across Long Island and the tens of thousands of students who participate in Legally Safe Schools Initiative. Now, part of the event is tearing down a wall of hate. Now, I'd like to show you some images up on the screens, if we can have the images up, as words simply cannot do justice to the impact of this evening. Now, if you could just take a look at the images. As you can see, this wall of hate is a concrete wall that youth spray paint with slurs, stereotypes, and words of hate that they encounter every day. Yes, every single day. The youth were given a sledgehammer and had the opportunity to tear down this wall. The wall which is a symbol of deep-rooted hate that still exists in the world today. Now, as I witnessed these youth knocking down this wall and hearing that loud bam, that's what it sounded like, just a big bam of the sledgehammer hit the concrete, I also heard voices of freedom. I heard voices of liberation, of being freed from the daily tormenting that they experience. The youth, as they slung that sledgehammer, screamed. For every time I was called a freak, bam. For every time I was beat up, bam. For every time I was kicked out of my house, bam. For every time I was called a fag, bam. Knocking down that wall took the power out of the bully's hands. I get emotional with this, but and gave the strength and the resiliency back to our young people. Excuse me for a sec. So, well, thank you. So my response for those who ask, is there still a need for Legally and the network? Yes, an emphatic yes. I wish that after 19 years that I could say our work is done. But we all know that isn't true. Our community still doesn't have full equality under the law, and all too often the rights that we do have, and sometimes our very humanity, are under attack. So let me say, as long as there is a wall of hate, the network will be there. As long as our youth are called freaks, beat up, kicked out of their homes, the network will be there. As long as we are treated like second-class citizens, the network will be there. As long as HIV and AIDS continues to be on the rise in our community, the network will be there. As long as GLBT seniors feel forced back into the closet, the network will be there. As long as any GLBT person feels ashamed simply because of their gender identity or for who they love, the network will be there. And as long as one incident of violence happens to someone because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity, the network will be there. We must be here. Your support allows us to be here and is crucial given the growing need for our services and the growing need for our visible presence across all of Long Island. Thank you for your generosity, and thank you for helping us to give a voice to tens of thousands each year. Thank you.